No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the British Touring Car Championship. Welcome to the halfway point of the season, rounds 9 and 10 here from Donington Park on its legendary Grand Prix circuit. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'm delighted to have joining me in the commentary box for the first time this season, David Addison. David, you've had a wonderful year of BTCC racing that we didn't really expect coming into the start of the year, but now you're here for the main event, eh?
Well, yeah, and we've got a crowd, and we've got the sun shining. It's completely different from Brands Hatch, isn't it? And the Grand Prix circuit at Donington always used to give good racing on the Grand Prix loop itself with the Fogarty chicane and the 2 hairpins. So yeah, I reckon we're in for a good evening of racing here. I know it's going to be afternoon within the game, but it's going to be good, this. And the way that the championship has gone this year, it has given some very good racing and a few surprises along the way.
It has indeed, and to be honest, one of the main surprises is right up there in the championship standings. We were just discussing them earlier, and after some comments last season, you were amazed to see Matt Draycott up there, to be honest. And I mean, we'll go quickly through the championship standings now, just have a quick ganders at them. But Calvin Dent has a 1-point lead over Jake Robertson, who then has a 1-point lead over Draycott. But those 3 are nearly double the points of Steve Burke down in 4th. It looks like a very much, almost sort of guaranteed 3-horse race at this point, doesn't it?
It does, and it illustrates, I suppose, the benefit of experience, because last year we were kind of taking the mickey out of Matt Draycott a bit for being the best of those in the mediocre cup, weren't we, for the independents. But you know, in the latest lockdown, with pubs and whatnot being closed, he's managed to put the hours in and improved and got quicker and more experienced, and there he is, a legitimate championship contender, and he comes here as 3 times a race winner, same number that Jake Robertson's had, and there's, as you say, just that 1 point between them.
Indeed, and Carl Jacquelet sat there in 5th has been a real talking point, especially after taking his first podium at Brands Hatch a few weeks ago and then taking his first win just last week in the sprint race at Alton Park. So to see him up there is a real treat for us. I mean, Carl's been doing a wonderful job. The drivers are just out in practice at the moment, but there is your championship leader, Calvin Dent. Now, we had some, I mean, we were both chatting with the drivers earlier and they were all having a dig at one another, saying that Calvin's never qualified in the top 3 or got any championship points from qualifying. But if he keeps this pace up that he's got in practice at the moment, it seems like he may be able to do that.
Yeah, he's looking good, isn't he? He's, 3rd in the times, and he's only 4/10 of a second back from Steve Burke. It's Josh Rayfield that's quickest within this practice session. As they're bouncing his way out of the Fogarty S's goes Calvin Dent, new to the championship this year, and looking strong, looking as though he's going to be able to add to that win tally. He's on the 1 win thus far, but what he's done is almost Colin Turkington-esque. He's just gone with banking the points, hasn't he? And there's more than one way to win a championship. You can go out all guns blazing and try and win races, or you can just keep banking points, and he's been doing that very effectively. He
has indeed. Now, Matt Draycott won't want me to say this out loud, but he reckons that this man is the title favourite, Jake Robertson. He's the iRacing, I was just about to say, he's an iRacing World Championship Rallycross driver, so he's world class within iRacing and proving that point. Only 15 years old though, Jake Robertson, so an absolute star of the sim racing world already. But in this Bordeaux, Peugeot, not quite Jetta thing, he's been very quick. I mean, he almost won both races here in rounds 1 and 2 of the championship, but his Achilles heel has been feature race pit stops. He's lost 2 race wins this season because of either overfueling or just speeding in the pit lane and getting a penalty, or even getting incident point penalties for that 15 incident point limit. So he's sort of been his own hindrance, but he's been that driver that's been all out, to be honest. And I mean, we compare the whole Colin Turkington, maybe Ash Sutton thing. I think he would be the Sutton to Calvin Dent's Colin Turkington.
Well, let's see. I mean, at the moment, in this practice session, he's got some time to find, hasn't he? Because he's only 5th. He's also spent quite a bit of it off the road, but when he finds the black bit, it goes pretty swiftly. This session, not with that long to go anymore, but surprisingly, you've got Niall Crowther at the back. That's a very odd line out of the Fogarty S's, but it just about worked there for Jake Robertson. He didn't quite demolish the floppy markers, and you'll find people doing that, certainly, I think, on the first couple of laps of the race. So Redgate's always a good pinch point first time around, and that dive onto the Grand Prix loop on the first lap. So they've got to survive that. And, of course, the other interesting change to the championship this year is, out of qualifying, you then reverse the top 10. So do you go for pole and get championship points, or do you lag back a little bit and try and buy yourself a better starting position for the sprint race?
Yeah, and, well, to be fair, I mean, I've spoken to some of the drivers who have all said that that tactic is one they may employ. Luke Austin is the new driver for this evening, replacing Tony Pearman, who we unfortunately didn't get to see out on track in the Mark Blair-esque Independence machine. But Luke is one of the co-directors at Alpha Live, which I've commentated on before, and everybody has, I'm sure, seen at least one of their streams at some point. So Luke's given it a go. He's been on iRacing a while, but not had a lot of experience on it. So he's doing all right to be up there at the moment. But with the smaller turnout that we've got this evening, I think it's going to be an interesting one to see how these drivers get on with that reverse grid. We might see some drivers end up at the front of the grid, such as your Michael Jones or your Liam Silkstones maybe, that we wouldn't have expected because the turnout is lower. It's quite an interesting one.
It is indeed, yes. And also, the Grand Prix circuit here, 2.5 miles in length, is a long lap. So it therefore means that there's greater chance for making errors. It was always a lap of compromise in a sense. You had the existing Donington circuit, this bit, which was nice and fast and flowing, but then the extension that was put on for 1985 and the Formula 3000 meeting at the end of the year was always the compromise because it was slow, stop-start. And actually, racing at Donington on the national circuit always better than the Grand Prix circuit because that circuit flowed. The Grand Prix circuit had this add-on and it did break up the racing. So because of the chicane and the hairpins, battles can break up, and if you can steal an advantage over somebody, it's actually quite hard to get that time back again. It'll be interesting to see how the race pans out, or the two races pan out, if people make errors on this section of the circuit you're looking at now, as you see there Andy Fox turn out of Goddard's.
He's just putting a dent in Calvin Dent at the moment, although he's damaged his own car more than Calvin's car by the look of it at this stage. But just getting used to the circuit, getting the cars sort of dialed in for this round of the championship, and this practice session is all the more important one. You know, these drivers do host some of their own sessions throughout the week, which has been great to see. So many of them have been helping each other out and trying to improve their own lines, improve their times, but the weather is always different, the track usage is always different, the amount of rubber down on the surface, so some of them have been inconsistent, and that sort of not knowing is a bit more of a realistic factor, isn't it? Because if everyone could always mimic the weather, I mean, I remember a lot of people kicking off last season because in the iRacing Indy 500 they were trying to do their qualifying laps and practice times, and they didn't know if they were as quick as someone else because they had cloud cover on their lap and it cooled the circuit and they were quicker than they might have been. And it's like, well, you can't stop clouds in real life, so what do you want? Do you want it to be realistic, or do you want it to be a game?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have the same thing in the SRO esports championships with the weather, the rain. And we can have rain for a race, or we can have it overcast, or the threat of rain. But the rain only ever comes for the sim races, not the real world races, because it's thought that the sim stars are better able to cope with that on the sim rather than real world races, because it's such a culture shock to them.
Yeah, well, I actually commentated on the sim grid 24 hours of Spa on a set of Corsa Competizione a few weeks ago, and there was actually a gentleman that I'm not going to mention his name, but he decided that it was going to be his last ever sim grid race because it didn't rain and he'd been practicing all week in rain. So apparently that was the sim grid's fault, although for the whole race they had it set to 80% chance of rain, and it didn't rain once. It stayed overcast, it stayed cold, but the rain just about missed the circuit. And there's Andy Fox and Calvin Dent giving each other a bit of a kiss. Jake Robertson's going to be sitting behind them thinking, well, this is all good and fun, so we'll have to see. Ian Fox and Jay Rayfield in the chat, great to see you, lads. Ian saying it's always good, Thursday is the new Friday, which, to be honest, I think with the lockdown situation, I totally agree, to be honest. I've been loving this season. It's been a bit more action-packed. Title fight has been a little bit more open, and until only the last couple of meetings, it seemed like anybody could win it, but the top three are really showing their class at the moment. And I mean, we saw the gap before, 47 points for Steve Burke, 80 for Matt Draycott. It's going to be hard to catch, really, because it's 15 points now for a race win, same points in each race as well, so no cheeky little strategies of, oh, I'll have a bad sprint race and a good feature race to get more points.
Yeah, you've got to go for it, but all it takes is one bad result, and suddenly, you know, if Matt Draycott were to have a bad evening here with two bad results and Steve Burke had a really good one, things can change. It's not over yet by a long chalk, so it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But Calvin Dent, Jake Robertson, two newcomers that weren't in season one, and yet there they are showing everybody else the way home. It's interesting to see how well they've adapted in a short space of time. I suppose in season one, everyone was a bit overshadowed by Dennis Melchert, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously we still do wish Dennis all the best with his ventures. And obviously Dennis leaving sim racing for a few years, so to go out and do that with a championship under his belt was phenomenal. And we had that dramatic final race meeting, obviously, with the incidents for Dave Waldock, obviously losing the championship lead and then losing the championship overall come the end of the season. Not exactly what he wanted, let's say. But still, it was a lot of fun, and I think Dennis deserved it in the end, because I mean we've been both looking at the overall results and the all-time records and so on, and the fact that Dennis has got so many of those records, or at least held them ahead of this season, just shows you how good a driver he is in these cars.
Absolutely right. Now, on the verge of a big moment here is Niall Crowther, getting ever more spectacular and giddy as he went down through the Craner curves, but he's done. Practice over for him. And now they reset ready for qualifying, and then we can concentrate on the first race. 15 minutes, isn't it, for the sprint race?
Yeah, 15-minute quali, 15-minute sprint. So plenty of changes to come in a very short space of time, I can tell you that for free.
Right, Jake Robertson, 2 pole positions then, so he's going to start as the benchmark driver, the target, but Josh Rayfield gets out first, and just as it was in period, if you like, in the pseudo Peugeot livery of the grass and the gravel trap livery, so the car camouflages itself on. That was always a running joke because you had Patrick Watts in that car,
yeah,
and it was always off the road. So it was grass and gravel camouflage ready for Patrick's next accident. Jake Robertson is the man behind the wheel of 22.
Yeah, it was. I remember the All Stars race that they did here, the BTCC Masters race in the Seat Leon Super Copers, and I remember that Charlie Cox was looking at a car going off, and he was just. Similar to yourself and John Watson when Vadim Kogai made a bit of a mess of himself in the Ferrari. It was one of those moments where it was like, oh look, there's a car off. Is it Patrick Watts? Yes, it is. Now, all these drivers here, they're slowing down because they're thinking, right, slipstream time. Josh doesn't want to be the first car. And you can see he's causing a bit of a train here, and everybody's joining in. Matt Draycott, typical to character really, isn't it? Jumps out of it and thinks, oh, stop messing about. Let's just crack on and get on with it. Michael Blake doing the same there in the Might Just Fit car. Now, this is actually, it's like Monza.
I think it is a bit. I was thinking Matt might have done the right thing because what he did, yes, he got himself to the head of the queue, but he also had the momentum. So while everybody else was prattling about, he's got to the head of the queue, but he's also gapped them. So nobody actually is close enough to get into his slipstream. If he carries on like that, he might have done the right thing because he's got away from them. Everybody else either in traffic or now giving a tow. Michael Blake, for example, hasn't got close enough to Matt Draycott to benefit, and he might still be towing around the rest of them. So Matt, because he went for it and had the momentum, I think he might have managed to do the clever thing there.
It's going to be interesting to see how some of these guys catch one another up. And I mean, Jacqueline, he's been the driver with the pace so far this season, but if I'm honest, he's got the inconsistent paces. Apparently Crowther goes fastest with the outlaps. They're some of the only ones that count. Liam Silkstone fastest with a 2 minutes 0.2 because it's counted the outlap for some reason, but still they're all on their fast laps now. We'll go on board with Calvin Dent and just see what it's like from his point of view. Obviously Calvin, the first independent to win a race in the British Boring Car Championship here at Donington Park in the Matt Neal livery in a feature race. You couldn't write it. Gets a good run on Carl Jacqueline, but this is the problem now. He's caught Carl and now they're going to have to race each other. Oh, around the outside before McLean's. That's always a scary moment. We've seen many people go off there, most notably Anthony Reid in '98 when it was leathering it down. And I think Mansell got the flak for that for a few moments from Charlie Cox, didn't he?
Quite right too, I think. Yes. It was also McLean's in '91, the very first double header meeting that we had, where somebody put oil down and 3 or 4 went charging off, amongst them Jeff Allen. But yeah, McLean's always been a great corner because you can overtake there and you can actually go around the outside as well. It's one of the best corners at Donington.
Yeah,
so up to the end of the first proper flying lap now. They will come in a moment. But again, you see, nobody really has been clever enough here to get themselves out of the traffic. Bail. Either go to the back or get to the front of the queue, but don't just sit with cars all around you. It just doesn't work.
It looks like Jake Robertson has overtaken Michael Blake on this lap as well. So Steve Burke is now tucked right up behind Michael. You can see him there. Draycott's going to be the first one to cross the line, and we'll see what sort of time he puts in. Obviously, Liam Silkstone apparently fastest at the moment. Draycott crosses the line then, and it is a 1:44.8. Now, a lot of these guys have been doing 45s, 46s. Burke does a 44.9. 2,000ths behind him is Dent. Ellett goes 4th. Now Rayfield goes 4th. And look at that, Jacqueline down in 10th. Jake Robertson has gone to the top with a 44.87. So Draycott finds himself 6th all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. So he was the pioneer, but then everybody else did go quicker when they came across the line. So actually, despite getting himself clear real estate, it didn't work out for him at all, did it? We were spot off in our predictions there for Matt. So 6th he is. But that said, he's only 300s down on Michael Ellett. So it is close, if nothing else. You know,
it is indeed.
It's still 8/10ths that cover your top 6.
Now, this is the predicament that you mentioned earlier now for Carl Jacqueline. He's currently sat in 10th place. Yes, there's some guys that haven't done laps yet. The only guy behind him in terms of those that have set lap times is Niall Crowther currently. But does he just sit in 10th and think, oh, well, I'll be at the front of the grid for the sprint race, or does he go for it and try and get the points? Because it's easy to do both, let's face it. You can easily go out there and push, but whether you get that or not, it's a different story. Steve Burke's been impressive, though. Oh, Blake. Chuck it in.
And catch it as well.
Yeah.
For Carl Jacqueline, he needs to keep circulating, because if he drops to 11th or 12th, he's got to be out there to respond. He doesn't want to go too quickly, but he can't go too slowly. So it's almost harder to try and time it to be 10th or 9th, be on the front row, than it is to actually go quick. So it is a tough one. It's, like I say, difficult to try to gauge exactly how quick you need to go to be slow, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You can't sort of... That's kind of the reason I've done it. You know, it's harder to do that than to just drop behind someone in a race and get a definite reverse grid position.
Yeah.
We've got.
I do have a recollection that we had this kind of qualifying for the Tourist Trophy one year when it was a reverse grid. So you had people like, would have been Alain Menu in his Renault days, trying to be slow. The Tourist Trophy sort of replaced the Toka Shootout one year, and it was a similar thing to try and have that reverse grid. And the fascination was how quick you had to be slow, if that makes sense, and timing it just right. Luke Austin is the only one that's not yet done a lap time, but he has got the road to himself here.
Yeah, he's got a nice bit of clean road, clean horizon. The only thing you'd see coming over that right now is a Ryanair 737, most probably, but into...
Delayed.
Yeah, we wouldn't have 4 people on it. And Luke... Using all of
spent 24 quid on a can of Coke. Yeah.
Got a can of Coke right here, and it cost me less than £1. Love it. Luke Austin crosses the line. Was it a valid lap time? It was, a 46.814, so he's not actually too far off Niall Crowther there, and he pulls over instantly to take advantage of not just the scenery, but the fact that you can just jump to the pits. Jacquelette's gone up to 4th and off the circuit again to go and reset. We've got a might just fit 6th and 7th little sandwich going on there between Fox and Blake.
And Brian Crowells is potentially going to start on pole position because he is 10th in the times. Whoops, way out wide onto the weeds goes Andy Fox, 6th quickest.
Yeah, Brian Crowells, that would be impressive for him. He'll be very pleased with that. He made his debut last time out at Alton Park. Got a little bit of contact that broke the front left at Druids as Michael Jones made a little bit of a tap around the outside, just didn't quite leave him the room. And then he got very infamously drilled by Draycott in race 2 on lap 2, which was Matt's downfall of the season. He was avoiding Dan McCauley with a slowdown going up Clay Hill, and he went round the outside on the grass to avoid him. And then when he got to Druids, the car wouldn't stop and or turn. So eventually, Brian Crowells was unfortunately Matt's brakes at that point, and there's some wonderful screenshots of it up on Facebook as well for everyone to look at. But he's hoping for a much cleaner race meeting this time with Brian Crowells. He's just gone back out actually. He's just coming up to Coppice now, but the Belgian driver, who we all think is American, has been doing, to be honest, a sterling job. He said that he had no pace in this car, but everybody says that, and they say it is going to be a boring car, but to drive it's hilarious. Really is fun. You wouldn't believe it until you've done it, trust me.
I'm tempted not to believe you. I used to be a Volkswagen owner, but never for a diesel Jetta. That was never an option. Right, out of the chicane comes Brian Crowells then. So 10th only in the times, but translate that to the front of the grid. Trouble is, assuming that this is as good as it gets for him, he won't have the pace to stay there, so he's going to get mugged, isn't he, within a lap or two, even if he starts at the very front. Especially
because this man is 9th at the moment and would start on the front row of the grid. So Draycott, who's still in with the fight of the championship, only 2 points off the top spot, although it'd be more than that, with Jake Robertson potentially getting 3 points and Calvin Dent getting 1, and Steve Burke getting 2 as well. So it just shows you that top 4. You know, I mean, Steve, we were saying last season at the end, if Steve had been as consistent and turned up to every race meeting, because he missed Brands due to an e-Brit car race, if he would have been as consistent as he was at the end of the season for the whole thing, Steve would have pretty much won the Independence Championship, because I think the gap was only 14 points at the end.
Yeah.
And he lost way more than that from other races, so would have been interesting to see how that turned out, to be honest.
Now, Steve Burke, only a 10th back on Jake Robertson here, and he's got the road to himself. It doesn't actually look that quick, but then none of them do, really. It's only when they start bouncing over curbs or going off that you realise how quick the car goes. But it's a neat, tidy lap, assuming that Steve Burke is still pushing on as best he can. And again, you see now, as other people have bailed out of the session, he has got the track to himself.
Yeah, he's going to be loving it as well. Steve has been able to put really good pace in when he's out on his own. We saw some fantastic laps from him last season as well. Unfortunately, his teammate Tom Jacobs not with us this evening. Tom's had a lot of internet issues, as we all know from previous rounds. We've seen his car blinking around. We do hope that Tom gets it sorted and is back on the grid very soon. But Steve comes around the final corner. A bit of an inside line there. Doesn't really use all of the road, but you've got to be thinking that sometimes in this car, with the amount of traction it gets and momentum, it can be a bit quicker. He does a 1:45.1, 3/10 off his best. We've had a purple Sector 1 from Josh Rayfield, who is chasing down and being towed around, more importantly, by Matt Draycott here. So Team Red Ring working well together. I mean, they said at the end of last season they wanted to be in a team, and now it's paying off, I think. They're doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Draycott's still only 9th, though, isn't he? So in terms of pure pace, it's not coming for him. Josh Rayfield is 5th, but that might not be a bad place to start. If he's got the pace, but he's mid-top 10, then, OK, he misses out on qualifying points, but he's going to be up at the pointy end for the race itself, isn't he?
He will be, and you can see there Matt just gets out of the way, relinquishes him, and then thinks, right, I'll get some of your slipstream for the next one. Now, the interesting thing here that I haven't mentioned yet, David, is that with the new format that we use is based on iRacing's heat racing system, so we don't have a big 10-minute break of nothing in the middle for people. We actually have a 10-minute warm-up session just to separate the two. But once a session ticks over to 15 minutes here, it's done. You do not get time to complete your lap. You literally get 3 seconds, and then the session is done. So it's very harsh, but it makes sure that the evening runs nice and quickly, to be honest. So
even if you're on your best lap, within 3 seconds, you get spat out and everything resets. Okay,
that's the one. And you can see now Josh has decided he's not on his best lap, gets a big run out of the hairpin. A few of the drivers were talking about this before practice kicked off. Just getting that run of momentum out the final corner and across the line they go. Now, just behind them on track is Carl Jacquelet, who will go on board with now in his Team Netcode machine. Obviously, same car that he was driving in Season 1. He's following the 2 Team Red Ring machines around, and he's had good battles with both of these cars so far this season, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to see him in some more here. 4th at the moment, though, is a lot more impressive than we would have seen last season, and he is really... I mean, we did a Driver's Driver Award last season. I wouldn't be surprised if Carl won it this time, because he's been a brilliant, brilliant driver to watch with this improvement.
5th in the championship, so he needs a good haul of points out of the evening, doesn't he? He's got the traffic ahead as he climbs up through Schwann's curve now, rides the curb on the inside, brakes, turns right. Tyres squealing protest, up the curb on the way in, curb on the way out, and now the run towards that double apex right of Coppice. So it's a decent enough lap, this. Get a lot of energy being put in as he flings it through the first element. Now the second part of Coppice, and now gets his foot nailed to the boards, tries to wriggle his way up past those 2 Team Red Ring cars on the way down towards Fogarty's.
I do love the fact that it's still the standard everyday steering wheel in this car as well. It's the least race car looking steering wheel I've ever seen, and it's just fantastic. It's just in its own way. It's still got the gearbox as well, obviously DSG gearbox, these things, so you can't just dump the clutch off the line and have it ready in first. We've seen a lot of drivers try to and then skip the start and goodbye. But this has been quite a clean lap from all 3 of these guys, so I'm going to be intrigued to see what sort of times they do. In terms of sectors, Steve Burke on his last lap did a purple Sector 4. None of these guys have done... They've done personal bests, but not purple sectors for many of them. Let's see what they come up with as they cross the line. I do apologise, by the way, everyone. I'm being told that we're dropping a lot of frames. Rayfield improves, Draycott improves, Jacquelet does not. So Rayfield now and Draycott are actually in a bit of an alternation there. It's actually like a little sandwich, because we've got the Team Netcode car of Jacquelet, then we've got Josh Rayfield and Team Red Ring machine, then it's Michael Blake in Might Just Fit, then it's another Red Ring machine, and then Might Just Fit, and then the other Netcode car at the end of that. So those 3 teams squashed into the top 10 just about as Austin improves.
He does, goes 12th, so moves himself up 1 row on the grid, and Matt Draycott has moved himself 1 row back by going quicker because he's gone up from 9th to 7th, so that puts him back a row, but it's kind of no benefit to him in a sense because he's not gone quick enough to get points, but he has put himself further back in the pack, ready for the first corner.
Yeah, it seems a bit odd, doesn't it, to have that sort of drop in positions on the grid. But hey ho.
I'm all in favour of reverse grids. They're great. They work in touring cars. They work in oval racing. Always have, and it adds to the racing. I think they're a good thing. And by having some reasoning to go quickly like this, like points for the top 3 in qualifying, makes people try. I always have this great desire to see one rogue touring car qualifying session that You wouldn't do for the first one, and you wouldn't do for the last qualifying session because the championship's up for grabs. But the TSL system, for example, could have preset for one round the ability to reverse the time. So everybody crosses the line, you get the checkered flag, and then you have a 30-second countdown. And it might be fine. And there's one event where you'd get this sort of, warning triangle or a toxic symbol, and the grid reverses, and nobody knows which round it's going to be.
I like that. That's evil but brilliant at the same time.
Yeah, yes. I don't think Alan Gale would go for it, but the teams probably wouldn't. But we can dream.
I'd love to hear the conversation trying to pitch it to him. Brian Crowell's then pole position with Michael Ellett second, Andy Fox and Matt Draycott, very interesting row 2. Michael Blake and Josh Rayfield in interesting row 3, with Carl Jacquelet ahead of Calvin Dent, who qualified third fastest, so gets 1 point. Steve Burke, I should say, 2 points. Jake Robertson gets 3. Then it's Liam Silkstone alongside Luke Austin, 12th place on his debut, with Michael Jones and Niall Crowther at the back of the 14-car grid, which is a bit of an unfortunate drop in numbers, but all the same, nice close qualifying session, and the first race of the day has a reverse grid, which, well, you haven't seen them do this yet, David. Have you got any calls for this one before we get underway?
I'm going Jake Robertson for this.
Right then. So from
the new championship leader, I reckon he's going to do this.
Let's see what he can do then. The lights are out, and the round number 9 is underway. Brian Crowell gets a terrible getaway. Michael Ellett gets an absolute corker, but Andy Fox has gone right through the middle. Fantastic Mr. Fox himself. Draycott's up there as well. He's got a hold on around the outside of Crowell's. Brian maybe giving him a bit of revenge for Alton Park. A lot of them slow up mid-corner though. Rayfield, Burke, Robertson. Rayfield's lost 2 places already. He really had to slow down there because Blake went in a bit hot. Josh seemed to follow him through the corner as they all filter their way down the hill. Jake Robertson side by side there. He's just trying to find a way through past Steve Burke. Oh, Blake's gone in hot again. Rayfield has to check up. Andy Fox has gone off the circuit, but he carries on in the lead. But further back, this is where all the mayhem is, David.
Absolutely, and somewhere out of all of that, Andy Fox was looking strong. Has he got himself to the front of the pack? Yes, he has. So he's managing to take the survivors, if you like, with him as to the inside line also there. Liam Silkstone tries to gain ground, and he's doing well, isn't he, Silkstone, now up into 9th place, and possibly even better still by the time you get to Coppage. So keep out of trouble on the opening lap, and it's all going to come good. So Fox did lead. Matt Draycott's made good progress, though, as well. So he's up behind briefly for second spot. Let's see what he can do on the run down towards Fogarty's. We go back to the race leaders. Yes, he's still there in second place, although coming under attack as they break for Fogarty's for the first time. Fox doing his best to get away.
Now Burke and Robertson have both gained 4 places here. Now Jacquelet just headbutted Crowells into the chicane, and Robertson has benefited from it. He's gained 6 places on lap 1 here, so that prediction might come true here, David, as Steve Burke down the inside of Jacquelet. Ellett just watching this from the sidelines as well. Draycott's taken the race lead off Fox, though, into the hairpin. I thought I saw them side by side. I should have probably paid more attention. But Matt Draycott, from lap 1, from 4th on the grid to the very front. Foxy down to 2nd. Andy scored no points at Alton Park, and he was fuming about it. We've got cars running wide. Calvin Dent, he hasn't managed to make any progress so far. Michael Ellett, poor first lap. He's lost 5 places. Michael Blake's lost 4. Rayfield was stuck behind Michael Blake for that whole lap. And look at how much it's cost him.
And Robertson 6 places gained then, looking good as they dive through Redgate once more. Michael Ellett coming under attack, gets run out wide over the curb. Draycott then trying to get away, but is it going to work for him as they plunge downhill once again? What have you got? The leading 5 or so, just ever so slightly gapping the rest of them as they dive out of Hollywood through the Craner curves for the second time. Matt Draycott then the race leader, as again forced out wide all over the curb there. Michael Ellett not having a happy time at all, and he's not the only one in strife, is he? Because who was that getting it wrong? Michael Jones off the road and back on again. Yeah,
Michael had a very big excursion at the bottom of the hill there. Blake and Ellett still having this fight. Ellett's just sinking like a stone at the moment, you could say. The first, Calvin Dent, championship leader's got a slowdown penalty. That's going to cost him big, down to 12th place. Luke Austin goes past him. Now, the first time I ever commentated on Liam Silkstone, he dropped a load of places for a slowdown, and I called him Liam Sinkstone at the time, and he's doing a bit of that around this lap. But to be honest, he's still gained 3 places overall. Ellett's lost some time as well. He's got a slowdown, so too is Josh Rayfield. And you can just hear the tyres squealing because that is Steve Burke all over the back of Brian Crowell. Down towards the hairpin once again. Steve's having to work hard here as Jake Robertson goes for second.
He does on the inside. He breaks late. He's got the real estate on the inside.
Oh.
That was easy, wasn't it? Through he goes, way up the curb, bounces Andy Fox. But while they've been squabbling like that, whisper it, Matt Draycott has built a gap. So look, he's out on his own, self-isolating. And then for second place, there's everybody else really now. So Jake Robertson, yes, he's managed to get himself to the head of that queue of cars, but he's still got work to do to go after the race leader here, coming out of Goddard's.
Yep, we've got Carl Jacquelet now at the back of this train. Draycott does the fastest lap of the race, but you've got to think, how long will it be before Jake Robertson gets into the back of him? 2 laps in the books, 8 places gained, amazing start. Steve Burke's gained 4, but he's really found his match in the form of Brian Crowles. As we carry on riding on board with Carl Jacquelet down the hill, you can see that there's just stones and all manner of nonsense being kicked up all over the place. Through the old hairpin they go. Such a scary corner to go through, like you said, tyres screaming in protest. Honestly, it's just torture for these cars. Front wheel drive down there just doesn't always work, and that is Brian Crowles getting a slowdown penalty, so he has now had to just jump out of the way, and Steve Burke has been relinquished to attack Andy Fox. He's also got a slowdown, has he? No, he's just going to the inside, maybe faking it.
Right, so Matt Draycott, fastest lap of the race last time around, a second and a half, give or take, the advantage that he's got. Good battle lower down, Fox versus Burke, which is now for third and fourth places. To the eye, you would say that Draycott is being caught. Only a little, but of course, against the clock, how much longer is he going to be able to survive?
Oh, no, Foxy!
Burke goes through, they lean on each other, and all sideways goes Fox, and that's him off the road.
Oh, it didn't need to happen. Steve put it down the inside very aggressively. Oh, and it's still kicking off here. Blake and Jacquelet and Crowles making contact. Crowles into the back of him again. I think Steve's actually waiting for Foxy to come back through. Oh, no, Steve has just disappeared. Not sure what's happened to Steve there. Maybe he's a bit annoyed with himself. Oh no, he has come back. Maybe a hardware problem actually because of that contact. But Blake has now got up into third place. So there's a humongous gap from the top 2 here. Blake and Jacquelet, dancing partners once again. Then you've got Crowles, and then you've got Silkstone behind that, and Luke Austin up to 7th place on his debut. He's having a great drive so far. We will look at this though.
Yeah. He is. He's benefiting Luke Austin to an extent by other people having dramas ahead of him. The other one that's struggling is Calvin Dent, way back in 8th place. He lost his championship lead in qualifying by a point, but he's not being able to respond in the race. He is doing better lap times, but Calvin Dent 8th and not really part of that leading gaggle anymore, is he?
No, and importantly as well, actually, Luke Austin is the lead independent at the moment as well. So on his debut, could potentially grab a mediocre Cup for Independence win here, which would be brilliant for him, and I'd be very chuffed, to be honest. He's given me a lot of work, Luke, so it's nice to give him something back. But Jake Robertson has cleared off from this, and it's Carl Jacquelet again fighting for a podium, who is, to be honest, Carl has made a bit of a habit of this recently. He's done a great job since season 1, and we will continue to mention it day after day. But he's got a fierce train behind him. Michael Blake, Brian Crowles, Liam Silkstone, and then Luke Austin as well. Michael Blake we know is quick. Michael's been very consistent recently in the British Boring Car Championship. He's been climbing the order. He was 15th, and I think in one round he went up to 7th in the standings because he just had a big haul of points. Andy Fox has just lost a place to Michael Jones. I think he just got a slowdown penalty. Steve Burke has continued, but he is further back, unfortunately. That incident causing the issue. We'll have a quick look back at it. So this is Burke looking to the inside of Andy Fox. Onto the brakes they go. And then Steve just goes, although to be fair, I think, if anything, I think Foxy turned in, tried to give him the room, but he just didn't, there wasn't enough down the inside for it to work that way for him, I'm afraid. So Burke losing out ultimately from that. But we've got a little inter-team battle going on here between the Ericsson Hitters cars, and hopefully they don't hit each other, because Liam Silkstone sends it down the inside of Crowles. And just about, they just conjoined twins there around turn 1.
It's a good move, that. And up front, you've had the fastest lap of the race done by Jake Robertson. He is still chasing on in pursuit of Matt Draycott, but he's not got there yet, but the gap is coming down. It's really a case now of whether he gets there before the clock hits 0, isn't it? Because Jake Robertson looks like he's got the pace, fastest again in qualifying, and you sort of wonder whether Matt Draycott's on borrowed time, because the gap, as I say, is coming down and down and down out of McLean's. And again, it is much less than it was 2 laps ago. So advantage Robertson, I would say. He's got the pace, hasn't he? But has he got the time left in the race to catch and then make the move?
Yeah, well, we've just gone over the halfway point. 8 minutes gone, as Michael Blake has now dispatched to Carl Jacquelet. Liam Silkstone's going to try and do the same. It's that old touring car scenario, isn't it? You open the door and then suddenly through comes the freight train. Silkstone has got ahead, but in a straight line. Oh, Michael Jones has a moment in the background. Jacquelet still down the inside. Oh, he gets a wobble on the brakes. Silkstone somehow doesn't get hit. Luke Austin tries to avoid him. Calvin Dent goes through as well. That's the Independence lead that is up for grabs. Josh Rayfield wants points. He's in 8th place. And Jacquelet, with that one little wobble all the way down into 9th. Now look at it bunching up. How they all didn't make contact there, I don't know. There was about 97 different lines going into there, but they all managed to come out, some of them 2 by 2. Silkstone ahead of Crowles, and we've got a really jumbled up order, even for this season's standards.
Yeah, Calvin Dent suddenly got back into it, hasn't he? He's up into 6th place again now. So having said he wasn't really part of that gaggle, a lap ago, thanks to others, he has now caught up and he's making progress once again. So Calvin Dent is going to lose points net to Jake Robertson, but of course he's also keen to try and maintain that commanding advantage in the mediocre cup for independence. They go now through Redgate, and he's got himself, as you say, right onto the tail now of the 2 Ericsson Hittas cars as they plunge downhill. And certainly Calvin Dent has got the chance before flagfall of gaining more pace. He's gaining more points.
He has indeed. He wants to defend that championship lead. He's scored points in every race so far this season, as Brian Crowles finds out that it's not flat through the old hairpin, but he's actually got a really good run out of it on his teammate Liam Silkstone. The gap at the front is 0.2 of a second between Draycott and Robertson. But I want to see what happens to Calvin Dent here, because he's got Josh Rayfield behind now. I mean, you've called him testicularly enhanced before, David, but to be honest, we all know that is very true with Josh. He does not back out of a fight, as he's actually had to back out of that there because there was a bit of a check-up into Coppice.
Yeah, there was, and he's also, of course, trying to attack and defend at the same time, isn't he? Because he's got Luke Austin breathing down his neck. So while he has to go defensive, that lets Calvin Dent have a pop at the top cars ahead of him, except they now block the road for him because, look, Silkstone and Crowles are side by side. Bit of a wobble up the curve, but as they come out of fog, it is they all concertina once more. Now, Calvin Dent's got the chance to challenge on the run down towards the Melbourne hairpin, maybe.
He has indeed. Rayfield loses out to Austin, though. Luke goes down the inside, says, thank you very much, mate. It was going to be an attacking move by Josh. Austin a little bit wide on the throttle. Just ahead of them now, Dent is side by side with Crowles. It's never ending this. It's like a game of musical chairs. Just fill the spot, see what you can do. Wait till the music stops. Calvin tries the cutback on Crowles, but it doesn't work yet. Brian is very wise to it. And Calvin Dent, I think, has got a drive-through penalty as Jake Robertson has gone for the lead.
He has. He's up the inside at Redgate. Leans Matt Draycott out wide. He's got the inside for Hollywood. Matt Draycott, if he's really brave, will get the inside line for the next element of the Craner curves. Can he fight back on the inside line? He does fight back, but he's going to put himself on the outside line for the old hairpin. It's effectively job done, that, for Jake Robertson. The road comes to him, and he's got the race lead. So he's gained 9 places now to get himself up to the front.
But Draycott attacks again as they go up the hill towards McLean's. And I tell you one thing, if you're a Calvin Dent fan, you will not have liked the last sort of 10-15 seconds watching Calvin go into the pits for a drive-through and his 2 main title rivals fighting for the lead, especially the closer of the 2, Jake Robertson, getting the lead off Draycott. Draycott stays in pursuit, though. Further back, Luke Austin is very close to the back of Carl Jacquelet. He is now once again the lead independent, though, with 2.5... No, sorry, I can't count. 3.25 minutes to go.
What was the drive-through for, do we know?
Potentially incident points. There was a bit of contact on that lap, so that might have given him what they call a 4X. And I don't mean trading, but that might have just given him the last couple that knock him over the limit. Brian Crowles and Liam Silkstone grab at least 1 each there out of the chicane. But that's the thing around here. We did have drivers in the Discord chat saying that they were, well, what it was called 1X City, apparently, according to some of them. So they might be struggling a little bit with it. Jake Robertson has now bolted at the front, though. Half a second to Matt Draycott.
And it's, of course, even though Draycott's lost his lead, it's still a relatively good result, this, because of Calvin Dent's strife, isn't it? So Calvin was 13th after his drive-through. And as the cars now make the run down through the Craven curves once more, it is Jake Robertson who has the advantage, but Matt Draycott staying with him, actually. He's not dropping back. And Calvin Dent, down in 13th spot, needs to really get a wriggle on, because right now, not only is he staring at a bad result, and off the road goes Jake Robertson. Is he going to get it back on in the race lead? Where's Matt Draycott in all of that? Still behind him. Now that, you could argue, was gaining an advantage by being off the road, but Robertson is struggling now, isn't he? Because Draycott does go by, and he's not picking up pace.
Yeah, he got a slowdown penalty for how much of the circuit he missed out there, and that has decided the race lead once again. So Draycott back to the front. Michael Blake's on for a podium here. He'll be very happy with that. Liam Silkstone in 4th has gained 7 places as well. Other than Jake Robertson, he's the biggest mover in this race. It's fantastic stuff from Liam. He's on his biggest haul of points finishes as well at the moment. He's on 4, so this will be his 5th. This will be Josh's 4th. So mega stuff from these guys. But yeah, Draycott, he's been gifted that a little bit. Jake may be pushing too hard. We did compare the whole Ash Sutton thing, didn't we, of just going all out, and I think Jake's proven that to us. But he has got 1 minute and 10 seconds to go, so one more lap to make that attack.
One more lap, and for Calvin Dent, he's not in the points, is he? So he came into the evening as the championship leader, and he's not going to score in the race. Okay, he gets 1 point for the qualifying, but he's not going to score unless people have dramas ahead of him, which is perfectly feasible. As up towards the line they come, then on to the last lap of the race, there is Calvin Dent in a very lonely 13th place. The leaders go by, less than a lap time left in the race now, and it is Matt Draycott ahead by only half a second. Now, what does Jake Robertson do? Does he throw everything here at it? Does he throw caution to the wind to try and go for the win, or does he bank the points? Let's find out.
Yeah, we'll have to see from Jake. You never know with Jake. Sometimes he's driven some very mature races this season and been very chill. But then on other occasions, he's been just outright on it, to be honest with you. He's been flooring it. So, Draycott has to defend. Now, these two have both won 3 races each and are tied as the third place most winningest drivers in the series. Whichever one of them takes this will equal Tom Jacobs on 4 race wins in the series. Jake looks to the inside for Coppice. Draycott was slow through McLean's, but he carries the pace around the outside, and he manages to get a really good run off the corner. Did Jake get another slowdown penalty? He's lost a lot of time, and he has, definitely. He's definitely got a slowdown. That might have handed it to Matt.
It might have done, yeah. Gap widens, so although you've got Michael Blake having a good run in 3rd place, that has really gifted it to Matt Draycott then as he comes through Fogarty's onto the Grand Prix loop for the last time. Checkered flag at the ready, and although we were questioning his pace early on, he was able to, if you like, get away early doors while everybody else was squabbling behind. So it is going to be Matt Draycott for a win. It is going to be a 4th victory of the season for Matt Draycott. Quickly check it's not April the 1st. No. And so Matt Draycott on target then. 1 more corner to go. Checker flag at the ready.
He's going to be absolutely over the moon with that then. Tied 2nd most winningest driver in the British Boring Car Championship. He weaves. He knows he's done it. Jake Robertson as well. He'll be very pleased with 2nd place though, starting 10th on the grid. That's a great drive. Michael Blake, very deserved podium. And Liam Silkstone's going to hold on just ahead of the rabble for 4th place. And Josh Rayfield, what a comeback that is. Despite that slowdown penalty earlier, he gets 5th. Brian Crowles is 6th. Carl Jacquelet ends up where he started in 7th, despite the mayhem going on. And your independent winner in that race, on his debut, Luke Austin. Get in, sunshine. 3 championship points for his trouble, 2 points for Michael Ellett, and points on the board for Niall Crowther. He'll be chuffed with that. And before you know it, there goes that first race. But, wow, a real corker to start the night off there, David. That was a lot of fun, that one.
And it kept us guessing all the way to the very end, didn't it? It's a shame about some of those penalties because obviously that affected life. But yeah, no, good race that, and well done, Matt Draycott. Excellent job. Yeah,
he did a smashing job. Certainly did. As we go for the results, not the championship standings. Apologies. It seems to like Niall Crowther's car as it's got him at the bottom there. But there are your results from race 1. Then Matt Draycott takes his 4th win of the season. Jake Robertson, an important 2nd place though. Still plenty of championship points. That's 12 points to him, when Calvin only got 1 for that entire race, including qualifying. Michael Blake gets 3rd position, a nice podium for him. Liam Silkstone and Brian Crowles, don't forget, in the Ericsson Hitters cars, doing a great job there, 4th and 6th, either side of Josh Rayfield. It's another points finish for him. Carl Jacquelet 7th. Luke Austin wins the Mediocre Cup for Independence in that race, with Michael Ellett 9th, and Niall Crowther gets a championship point. Michael Jones 2nd in the Independence, 11th overall. Steve Burt recovers to 12th. Calvin Dent and Andy Fox we actually lost with a couple of laps to go. I'm not quite sure what happened to Andy with that one, because he did continue after the incident, but that's a real shame, that. And I think we probably could have seen more from Andy, but again, just an incident just takes him out of the running, unfortunately. And he would have been very pleased to carry on with that, but I did promise whoever won the sprint race, unfortunately for us, David, that we would give them an interview if they won the first race. So here he is. Matt, you've just tied with Tom Jacobs as the second most winningest driver in the series. How do you feel?
Good. Very good. Yeah, it was a good race. Good little battle with Jake. I was in a good position. I couldn't get any lap times in for quali. I think I only got 2 on the actual board, which put me in 7th, which was good because I knew for a fact that the guys weren't like not on the pace, but you know what I mean. They weren't top guys, so I knew there was a possibility for me to win it, and made it my own, really.
And what did you make of it when Jake was catching you towards the end, though? Because obviously he got past at one point, and then he had to do it all over again, and then again.
Yeah. I haven't looked at the replay, obviously, for the last lap for that one. Because just going onto the back straight, I said to him I might have squeezed him a little bit too much, which gave him a slowdown. He had 2 slowdowns. But he thinks he might have just gone too much to the right, so we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, overall good little battle. We were both communicating, we weren't doing anything malicious, both had good spatial awareness, it was good.
Well, it certainly looked enjoyable, and obviously well done from us. And what's your tactic with... Oh, sorry, go on, David.
Well, I've got 2 questions, if I may. Question 1 is, have you got the dessert menu, Matt? And question 2 was, is there a plan for qualifying? Are you able to kind of assess whether it's your pace early on is enough to then warrant really going for pole position and getting points, or do you very quickly think it's not quite here tonight? I'll go for a modest pace, if you like, and try to luck into the front row of the grid. How do you attack qualifying?
Well, like straight off in practice, I could see that I wasn't really up there. Josh was the fastest around here, which we were surprised at, because Jake and Calvin were just behind. But yeah, I sort of knew I was in the top 4. I think I got into the top 4 in practice, but I knew I wasn't going to beat their times. I was about 6/10 off the top time, so yeah, I just thought I'd just try and get a good time in, see where we end up, because I knew I'd be sort of in the top 10 somewhere. So hopefully, yeah, like you say, get lucky and I got P4, so it's good.
Definitely worked. Well done.
Yeah.
Top job.
Nice one.
Nice one, Matt. Well, we'll speak to you obviously in the second one. You're going to start alongside Jake for this half-hour feature.
It's going to be a long half an hour.
Well, best of luck. We look forward to seeing the battle again.
Nice one.
Cheers.
Well,
there you go then. And to be honest, I want to have a quick word with Liam Silkstone, who joins us in the box after making up a lot of places in that one. Liam, that was a strong drive, that. You were always in the thick of it. How did you make that one?
I don't know. I think I just got more luck than judgment. Just everyone around me getting slowdowns. And I might not be the fastest, but I know how to race, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he just stayed out of trouble. I mean, David was saying it earlier on, even just with lap 1, staying out of the trouble there is very important. But for the rest of the race, you did that just as well.
Well, that's what I mean. That was just my main thing, because when we did the practice pre-season thing, I got a slowdown on the first lap, and that just ruined my race. So it's just like, do lap 1, then just try not get slowdowns for the rest. I did get one later on, and I was just chatting about it. Somehow no one passed me, so I got away with it. So,
well, nicely done either way, mate. One of the biggest moves in the field, other than Jake Robertson, who started 10th and finished 2nd, but a lot of championship points for you there as well. Obviously, it's a big change to... I mean, no disrespect meant, but obviously when you're a bit further down the order from these guys that are in the top 3, if you just get a nice race that bags you a bunch of points like that, it makes all the difference, doesn't it?
yeah, that's all it is. It's end of the day, it's just keeping consistency and keeping it on the track, and that was my aim, was just keep it on the track, watching everyone else go around me. So I'm just, oh, what do I do? So just kept it on the track and did what I needed to do.
You did indeed, mate. Well done, and we look forward to seeing you in the feature race.
Oh yeah, I'll enjoy it.
Cheers. Right then, and that was an unmistakable sound.
It was. That was obviously a can of IPA being opened or something Belgian. I thought that's why I had Brian Crowell's in this, as the Belgian influence for me to bring the beer. But clearly it's virtual beer because I haven't found a drop of it. But anyway, he's out on track and he will start 6th on the grid.
He will indeed.
the point's being made, and it's a valid one. It's going to be a long half hour. It's a long race, isn't it? 30 minutes, especially on the Grand Prix circuit. And if you are the race leader and you're under pressure, it gets longer and longer. So there's another debate here. Maybe is it better to be the chased or the chaser for that lead battle?
Yeah, indeed. It's a battle that nobody wants to be in when you're fighting for the lead for that long, to be honest. And I think that some of these guys will really be struggling with trying to hold on at the front of a pack that's this competitive. Some of them, with the pit stops going on, often have some issues when they come back out. Depends obviously on the traffic that you get around you as well. I mean, we've seen that some of these drivers can deal with the traffic really well. Others just can't hold on to it. You know, some of them just don't have the ability to just hold it for that long. You know, it's all about consistency, as everyone does say, but it's very true in a situation like this with a longer race.
Now, can I just clarify with the race director, please? He says, looking at the regulations, 30 minutes or 25?
30.
30.
As I wrote it wrong, yeah.
I'm just reading the regulations, that's fine. And the grid is based on the results of the sprint race, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the pit stop is between 10 and 25 minutes, and you've got to take on 2 new tyres?
Yes, 2 tyres minimum, just to make sure, because with the fuel that we had in this setup, last season it was a bit of a topsy-turvy situation with setups. So for the sprint race, we would have 2.1 gallons in this car, which would do about just under half an hour at most tracks. It's like 29 minutes, 40 seconds we figured out on most tracks. With the feature race, we forced the drivers to have 1 gallon of fuel, so they had to pit within 25 minutes. But because we're doing the heat racing format this season, which is 1 session, we can only have 1 setup on the car. So we have to have it with enough fuel to make the sprint race without running out of fuel, which the 1 gallon couldn't. But it also had to have enough to do a feature race where you had to pit. So the only issue is that you can only have 1 or 2.1 gallons in the Jetta, and that's either 29 minutes or I think 12. So we decided to go with the 2.1 and just to extend the pit stops and make sure that at least they do lose some time in the pit stops and don't just stop and go again, to prove we can see the cars move up on the jacks. So it's a definite black and white way of knowing if someone has abided to the pit rules or not, which is what we sort of needed really, because some of the drivers were just saying, oh, stuff it, I'm just going to stop, get a fast repair, no fuel, and then go. It's literally like you stop and go straight away.
Right. Well, they asked. Thank you so much. Excellent.
It's not written that well. Oh well.
The regulations are another feature of this championship. I accept that.
Yeah, it's another challenge.
Right. Another challenge. Not many are taking up the offer of a warm-up session here, are they? It's obviously dinner time, but you've got 4 of them that have been out. Niall Crowther, Steve Burke, Liam Silkstone, Carl Jacquelet. Now, just thinking about the grid for this feature race, the back row, Calvin Dent and Andy Fox. 2 drivers that should be in a big hurry, I would have thought.
Yeah, definitely. Calvin will be feeling the pressure from back there for sure. And I can tell you that Andy Fox will want to make up for being out of that first race with an incident. Michael Blake as well, he's going to be one to watch, I reckon, early on in this, because he's been very quick recently. Might not be able to match Draycott and Robertson early on, but when he gets into his rhythm, Michael can be very quick indeed. So the session's about to tick over any second now. The cars will disappear very elegantly back into their garages, as you may see. And then we'll get this half-hour feature race underway. Now, when I told the drivers it was going to be half an hour, they were like, how long? But they've come to embrace it. They've come to enjoy it, to be honest.
Tell them it's 30 minutes, because that sounds better. Half an hour sounds more. 30 minutes, you see, because it's the word.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, there's your grid then. Matt Draycott starting on pole with Jake Robertson alongside him on the front row. Then it is Michael Blake and Liam Silkstone on row 2. Behind them is Josh Rayfield and Brian Crowles. Then it's Carl Jacquelet alongside your independent race winner from race 1, Luke Austin. Then it's Michael Ellett and Niall Crowther rounding out the top 10. Then Michael Jones and Steve Burke. Calvin Dent and Andy Fox. And to be fair, Steve Burke as well at the back of this field. He is definitely going to be one to watch from further back there, isn't he?
Definitely. Absolutely so. And you've got a potential list of probably half a dozen that could well win this as long as they survive. But also, as we've seen after the sprint race, don't get a penalty. Don't get one of these slowdown penalties, because that completely undermines your race.
It does indeed. And Jake Robertson will be absolutely hating them. And he wants to take a feature race win this time round. He needs it, if that. So here we go then. Round 10. of the British Boring Car Championship. Oh, Draycott, I think, has just jumped the start. Round 10 is away, but I think that's a massive error from Draycott. We'll have to see whether he serves a penalty for it. Steve Burke has gained 2 places already. He's had a demon start at the back. Although Carl Jacquelet has not taken to the start for some reason, I've just seen.
Yeah, he was shown as being in the pit lane. Now it says out on the timing page. But as they get round Redgate for the first time, there he is joining in late now. Matt Draycott did lead. He ran out wide. Let's see whether he's managed to hang on to the top slot as they drop down through the Craner curves. He has, although Jake Robertson lines up to have a dive on the inside line. Breaks late, goes through. Does he? No. Draycott sticks out his elbows. Just about hangs on to that. Michael Blake, after his first podium of the championship, is there in third. And Draycott, for the moment at least, stands his ground and he leads as they head to McLean's.
Oh, Blake got a little bit of a tap there from Liam Silkstone. He's now deep on the inside of McLean's. No one wants to be there. Jake Robertson headbutts Matt through there. Silkstone's all over the grass. Josh Rayfield now benefits from that. Up to 4th place. Down the inside he goes. They've got Michael Ellett sat behind them as well. Luke Austin in there. Steve Burke has gained 4 places already on this lap. Calvin Dent has gained 3. So they are definitely in a hurry, as you said, David. But look at this at the front. Robertson tucked up right behind Draycott now as they go into the Grand Prix loop. And Andy Fox has got that absolutely hateful slowdown penalty, but look at these lot through the chicane.
Running out wide as well there. You've got Luke Austin as they go then down towards the Melbourne hairpin for the first time. Carl Jacquelet is going to be a man to watch then, is he not? He's had 1 race win already. He's got half an hour now to try to make amends as contact is there. Steve Burke gets clipped by Brian Cowles, but they get themselves out of the corner. Brian Cowles up the inside line, gets a slowdown penalty, loses momentum, loses places. But Steve Burke making good progress, isn't he, from the penultimate row of the grid. What about Calvin Dent? He's got 5 spots gained already, as only now do they complete lap 1.
Yeah, it feels like a lap that takes forever as well around here, so I think this half-hour race is going to really feel like a long one for them. But Draycott holds on to the lead, importantly. He stays ahead of Jake Robertson now. If he's got a penalty for jumping the start, he's got 3 laps to serve it. So he might just think, right, drive angry for a bit. We've all heard the story about Matt Neal driving angry when he won here at Donington Park, and I think Draycott's probably going to try and be inspired by that to go on. Michael Blake's under pressure from Josh Rayfield as well now, and Josh we've seen is very quick. Obviously Team Red Ring leading the team's championship at the moment, and Josh obviously still very much part of that. He's currently sat a little bit further down than his teammate in the championship. He's down in 8th, but he's still contributing 32 of their 112 points before this race meeting anyway. So it's not like he's out for the count. Him and Michael Blake have actually both been racing each other quite a lot in this championship, but it's flown under the radar a lot of the time. So they're back at it once again. Silkstone's still in 5th. Ellett there in 6th place. Steve Burke and Calvin Dent, like you say, they've just got to bridge that gap now between these 2 sort of divided packs of cars, haven't they?
And what's happened to Carl Jacquelet? Because it's not suggesting that he even completed the first lap now. So there he is. He's a long, long way back, but the timing screen is doing odd things in the context of Carl Jacquelet. So he's in no man's land at the moment, trying to play catch-up. Draycott versus Robertson for the race lead. If Jake Robertson's really savvy about this, he will remember what pace he had in that sprint race, and as long as he's not under attack from Michael Blake, he's got the best part of 26 minutes in which to plan his move. He doesn't have to do it at the next corner. He can bide his time. Draycott for the pits for his penalty. Yep,
so he did get that drive-through. That's going to be painful for him because he's got to do that, and then he's got to pit again a bit later on with the mandatory pit stop in this race. So this has got spicy at the front, though, because Jake Robertson, he's not actually getting away from Blake, who takes some of the curb with him and some. Rayfield down the inside. Now these guys want to try and work together here, don't they, David, to try and move forward and catch Jake Robertson together. But if they battle like this, Jake's just going to be off over the horizon and East Midlands Airport.
Absolutely right. Josh Rayfield is stuck for the moment behind Michael Blake. So now look, Robertson is getting away as way out wide into the weeds goes Michael Blake. Josh Rayfield went bush as well. So the pair of them mow the lawn, but that doesn't help in the quest to get onto terms with Jake Robertson, who now needs to treat the next couple of laps like qualifying laps and get away, get his head down, build that gap, and possibly actually get the pit stop done early, and then as everybody else feeds into the pit lane, he can pick up the race lead once more. But he's seen off one of his championship rivals, Matt Draycott, in a sense, with that penalty going Matt's way. More fun and games lower down the order there. Look, as Michael Jones gets lent upon by Niall Crowther. Good scrap, though, that.
Yeah, Niall chucks it down the inside. Michael just leaves him only the room that he needs. And now they swap places again in a straight line as Michael's got the run out of Coppice. into the S's. Steve Burke's gone off the road on the exit of said S's. And then just ahead, Liam Silkstone is now looking at Josh Rayfield, who hasn't managed to get past Michael Blake yet, but he has caught right up to Jake Robertson once again.
Yeah, Jake's not getting away. I'm surprised about this, given how well he went in that sprint race. Whether this is all about biding his time, but let's wait and see. But he's not getting away. Michael Blake, possibly buoyed up by that first podium of the year, is staying with him as they come out of Goddard's over the timing line. Another lap in the book then now. So 3 laps done. Robertson goes by, and what's his margin? It's tenths of a second, isn't it now? Over Blake, Rayfield, Silkstone, Michael Elliott going nicely 5th, and Steve Burke 6th, with Calvin Dent, another of the big movers, because both he and Burke 6 places gained.
Yeah, they've now got onto that train as well, as Brian Crowles goes down the inside of Luke Austin, catches the gravel a little bit on the exit. Bit of a slide, but nothing too bad for him. But yeah, Calvin Dent definitely trying to defend his championship now. He needs to really make up for that poor and, well, pointless race 1. So he's going to be watching Steve, and I think he'll see Steve as the marker here, because we've seen Steve pull off some fantastic recovery drives before through the field from further down, especially when it came to the feature races in season 1. And I think that Calvin, he's always said that he's not the quickest in this car, but he just gets it to the end and gets it into the points. So I think Steve will definitely be that marker for him. And
well, you say that about Calvin Dent not being the fastest, but he's done the fastest lap of the race so far. So
true.
He's on a mission, that's for definite. And he is going after Steve Burke. And actually, again, given the length of the race, we've got, what, 6.5 minutes done. He could just sit there, let Burke be the one with his elbows out, try and force a way through the traffic. And if he stays right up behind him, he could benefit, because a path is made for him. As there, good little scrap lower down, Andy Fox versus Niall Crowther. Crowther with a tighter line through the S's at Fogg it is, but Andy Fox fends him off.
yeah, teammates from last season, these two as well. So Andy showing Niall that he's improved and he's trying to get away through the Melbourne hairpin. They go a bit of a wobble on the apex there from Andy, just climbing back up the hill. But yeah, Michael Blake is he's within a second of Jake, but he's dropped off a little bit in this last sector. Jake's actually done his personal best as well, so he's opened the taps slightly. We're not even into the pit window yet, so that could shake things up even more, because we've seen plenty of them get penalties for speeding.
Right, Blake's got a problem, definitely, and it's called Josh Rayfield, because now Josh is all toey looking for a way past him. You can see how the gap, even around Redgate into Hollywood, has markedly increased between Jake Robertson and Michael Blake. So Michael's having to try and fend off Rayfield and an inspired Liam Silkstone, who's doing a really ripper job in 4th place. But because he's defending and he's way out all over the grass and he's in danger of losing a place and or getting a penalty, Robertson has now gone. He's away up the road, and barring a mistake, he's going to build on that gap while Blake has to make that car as wide as is possible.
He is going to really have to work hard now. I think this is going to be a case of try and hang on for a podium above anything else. Steve Burke is now down the inside of Michael Elliott as well. Michael's still just in front. Now this is a situation for Steve, because if he attacks Michael too much, Calvin Dent's going to try and pry open the door as well. So he's got to think about this. And this is, again, the horrible but brilliant for us part of touring car racing, where when you're in a close pack like this, you've got someone that's trying to attack and defend at the same time, and you can just see them squirming, and the evil side of me thinks it's wonderful.
Absolutely, I go along with that. And Steve Burke is the man trying to find a way past Michael Elliott, the leading quartet. Actually, Constantina's up. So down to the Melbourne hairpin. Blake breaks late, runs out wide, loses a place. Rayfield's up the inside. He's got the job done just before they get to Goddard's, although on the inside line, Michael Blake will brake as late as he possibly can. He'll try and get that place back, slides up the inside. Rayfield goes out wide, contact taps him sideways, and Silkstone's going to go through as well. But in all of that, Jake Robertson's advantage had come right down at the Melbourne hairpin.
It had, yeah. He's now over a second ahead of Michael Blake, but at the same time, I think that's done Michael a bit of a favour, because he's got a bit of breathing room back to Josh Rayfield, and we've all been there. We've watched in the mirrors and thought, right, now I don't have to worry about that, and now all of his focus will go forward on that Bordeaux machine in front. Jake really carrying that team at the moment, not through any fault of Louis. Obviously, we do send our best wishes to Louis and hope he's okay and back soon. He says that he should be back. He wants to use the boring cars as sort of rehab back into touring cars, rehabilitation, of course. But looking further down the order, Andy Fox, he's in 11th place, chasing down Michael Jones at the moment. Carl Jacquelet hasn't really made much ground. He's 9 seconds off Crowther. He's got Draycott there just 3/10 behind him. So Matt's trying to claw back into the points as Jacquelet goes grass tracking. But the interesting thing now for both of these guys is if they want a points finish, they don't have as many cars to work their way through. As Draycott goes round the outside up the hill, down the inside into McLean's, and he's going to get that done nice and clean.
What's surprising, though, for me, is why Jack Alette has not been able to catch up with the rest of them, because he's a quick driver. We know that. He's a race winner. But is there something wrong, which is why he started in the pit lane? But either way, he's not caught anybody, and he's now being caught and passed by Matt Draycott. Now, I'm not suggesting Matt's slow, but you'd expect Jack Alette to have been able to latch onto the back of, for example, Niall Crowther, would you not? But he hasn't. He's stayed in no man's land, and he's lost the place to Draycott. So all is not well, I fear, for Carl Jack Alette here.
I'm wondering now whether, with Draycott ahead of him, he'll be spurred on to go and fly forward. Maybe, I mean, from my sim racing experience, I'm better if I'm chasing a driver. Steve Burke is the first car to blink, and he comes into the pits with that very shiny green visor that he's got in his Team Lizard Motorsport helmet. Niall Crowther makes a very very last-minute decision there. It's like he couldn't decide whether he needed a wee at this services or the next one or not. But he just jumps into the pits. You can see Steve's car on the jacks there. Niall, despite the fact he would go straight through Steve's car, does the pleasant thing of going around it. Steve doesn't care. Goes straight through. And Carl Jack Alette also into the pit lane as well. So inside the window, he decides it is time to jump in. Now, Luke Austin and Michael Jones are the two closest cars on track at the moment. Scratch that. It's Michael Blake and Josh Rayfield further up now. Ian Fox asking in chat, where has Carl's pace gone from the last two rounds? I really don't know, unfortunately. This is the independent battle for second place. Calvin Dent obviously leading that class up the hill. But good stuff to see Michael Jones attacking here, actually. Michael was not very confident with this car previously, but he's got a little battle buddy here in Luke Austin.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to Jack Alette, the reverse of that is Calvin Dent. I mean, he has gained 7 places. He's up from the back of the grid. He has been charging, but Carl Jack Alette's car much markedly slower. Calvin Dent's going to gain another place here up the inside line. Alette makes a huge mistake coming into the S's, loses it through the gravel. Big old tank slapper. Around he goes. And although Michael Alette will get going again, that is going to drop him a long way down the order. He finally gets the sat-nav to tell him which is the right direction. Away he goes, but that was a big moment for him.
It was indeed. We'll have to hold on to your hats, everybody, because we're about to go for a hell of a ride into the S's. But these cars, they do move around on the brakes. You'll see he just touches the brakes and the car just goes right. And that tiny bit of contact with the grass, the tyres are just the loudest thing about this car. Just goes one way, then the other so quickly. And unfortunately, Alette drops down. Now Rayfield and Silkstone are in the pits. It's definitely not mating season in the Jetta country. Andy Fox is in as well. Andy's not really lit the world on fire, if that's the phrase, this round. But he's going to be hoping to do better. He did do a big old post on Facebook about it. Now, Silkstone has left the pits considerably quicker than Josh Rayfield. What has happened to Josh? Something has not gone right there. He's got to be careful not to get caught speeding. Here is Steve Burke, who has now jumped him. Now, Steve was just about behind Liam Silkstone earlier. So he's got that visual gap to catch up. Now we'll bring the pit stops graphic up on the left-hand side. You can see that Draycott is the highest placed car that's pitted, but that obviously was for his drive-through.
Yeah, so he's still got to make another pit stop, so anything he's gained, he's going to lose again, isn't he?
Yeah, and it might have even been a stop and go, actually, not a drive-through. So
yeah, it was a long stop, wasn't it? Because it put him to the very back, even behind Carl Jack Alette.
Yeah, it does say it was 8 seconds pit time, which, yeah, to me, I don't even think that's a stop and go. Oh no, it would have been, surely. Yeah, must have been, but it would have been at least 10 seconds. That's a bit odd. Michael Jones is now up to 5th place. He's got Brian Crowles ahead of him. Luke Austin just behind. Michael Blake is sitting pretty in 2nd at the moment. He'll be quite pleased with that. You can see a big plume of smoke there from Jake. Now, Jake hasn't cleared off up the road. He's only 1.5 seconds ahead, isn't he?
Comes and goes, doesn't it? He has good parts of certain laps where you think, right, now he's getting away, and then 2 corners later, either he makes a mistake, he's going to go for the pits, but the gap comes down. So he's not consistent, it seems, across an entire lap. So the leader comes in. That now puts Michael Blake into the lead of the race, and Calvin Dent up into 2nd pro tem from the very back row.
Yeah, Calvin had a fantastic feature race here last time we were at Donington, obviously, on the national circuit, so he's doing the same again here in the feature. He came away from that first race meeting. He's actually, I was saying earlier, that he's led the championship after every single race meeting, but for 3 of them, he's been tied on points with the leader. So this will be painful. Draycott goes through, past Jake Robertson, with a huge lockup, but knows that there's a pit stop got to fit somewhere in that gap between the two of them. That is a painful moment, but importantly, Robertson is out ahead of Silkstone, who is still ahead of Steve Burke, but that gap has come way down. 1.5 seconds now between these pair.
Next question is, where is Michael Blake going to feed back in after his pit stop? Can he now try, with a clear road ahead of him, to push on, do qualifying style laps, and then try and take over the race lead on the pit stops? Steve Burke 8th currently, and he has served his stop. He was the first one in, so anything he now gains is going to be to his benefit as other people blend into the pit lane. Michael Blake is on it. He's absolutely charging as he goes curb and all through Fogarty S's this time, but Calvin Dent chases on behind him. He also yet to stop. Matt Draycott notionally the best of the stoppers, but as you say, that's the penalty stop, so it is Jake Robertson in real terms leading the race.
Yep, doing a wonderful job once again here. I was saying before that his hindrance and his Achilles heel mainly this season has been feature races, but great performance in the first race, second for him in that one. Just showing that, you know, that the way I sort of came up with the format was that these drivers can prove that they're quick in qualifying, but they need to sort of test their mettle in the sprint race and get through the field in a short amount of time if they want a good position for the feature race. And, you know, they work hard and earn it over the course of the evening. Calvin Dent then in the pits, so too is Brian Crowles. There he is. We were just looking then at Steve Burke, who was within 0.6 of a second of Liam Silkstone. Matt Draycott is now in the pits. He's going to hate every single moment of this pit stop. But down the straight, though, Burke is now looking racy again, and after dropping down the order in the first race, he really needs this because he's the best of the rest in the championship.
Absolutely right. So,
oh, look at the gap to Dent. Sorry, look, that's a big gap to Dent now. 2.7 seconds.
Blake versus Austin for the race lead, but Jake Robertson, in real terms, still in charge of all of this because he's the best of the stoppers. There is Luke Austin, leaving it late to serve that pit stop, isn't he?
He is indeed. Still 8 minutes to go, so he's doing all right. Steve taking a very agricultural route through the old hairpin there, completely on two wheels, but we know Steve, he likes to push hard. And I think Liam is going to be a bit worried now looking in his mirror, but we've seen, as Liam has a bit of a blip in and out, that's not going to install Steve's confidence in him. All over the shop at the moment, Liam Silkstone. Hopefully he gets that sorted. But yeah, Steve he's one of those drivers that's just, he's a joy to watch sometimes. You know, some of the moves that he can work out because of his real racing experience in Brit car. But then other times, you know, he has a bit of overconfidence sometimes that gets him involved in incidents like we saw in race 1, unfortunately, with Andy Fox. But still, that was 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I'll have to see whether that happens with Liam Silkstone. But it's a good old chase so far, this, as he's actually got the run here. And I assume, yep, we're going to be going back to the TV1 camera very quickly.
So up the inside line goes Steve Burke. He's got the line, he brakes late. As long as he doesn't wash out wide, he's going to be able to hang on to that, I think. Yes, he got his nose in front, powers up the hill. Although now, trying to stay alongside him, look, is Liam Silkstone. He's got the inside line for Goddard's. Again, you've got to brake late, but the undercut might come from Steve Burke because wide in, tight out. Even if he does that, he'd put himself on the wrong line for Redgate. So he bails, he slots back in behind. Liam Silkstone will keep the place over the line. That's third net, but Steve Burke lines up to have a go on the inside at Redgate, brakes as late as he dares, and again, as long as he doesn't wash out, he should get the job done here.
Yeah, Steve holds the pace on the inside there, nicely done. Liam does a great job of holding it around the outside, and he did the same at the Melbourne hairpin, but now Steve Burke slots in front as they go down the craners. Liam's got a bit of a better run through there, but Steve holds that inside line, and now thinks about what he can do going forward to try and chase down Jake Robertson in the Nodaphone car, the sole Nodaphone car out there tonight. Now, full pit lane time for Jake Robertson and Steve Burke was between 34 and 35 seconds. Michael Blake is 21 seconds in the lead at the moment. So, based on where he would come out, he'd actually be behind Josh Rayfield in 6th place. So, that's going to be interesting to see how he does this, but you've got to be thinking he'll come in anytime soon. Liam Silkstone now half a second behind Steve Burke. Matt Draycott still working his way back up. He's just got to get ahead of Michael Ellett, who's only there to get back into the points here, David. And like I said before, not many places to gain with this smaller field tonight.
No, that's true. So if you can get past Michael Ellett, points do start to come. Not many of them, but it's better than nothing. And actually, there is traffic up the road that he can still benefit. So here he comes to the outside line.
I think
he has certainly not done yet. Yeah, he's got one place. You're right, Elliott got out of the way, had that slowdown penalty. So that was an easy pass for Matt Draycott. And there's better news because, look, he is closing on others further up the road ahead of him. Michael Blake serves the pit stop. I think he's the last one to stop, isn't he now?
He is indeed. And there goes Jake Robertson going through. Now, where's Steve Burke going to be? Michael's on his way out of the pit lane. Is Steve going to make it out in front? He's going to have the run through turn one, of course. So he goes down the inside. Blake covers it off. That was late, a late decision there from Steve, but still, Blake somehow holds on. So I ignore my maths about flipping 34-second pit stops. Blake does hold on. I wondered whether that was correct or not. I thought it was going to be a bit weird, but yeah, Silkstone.
Keep digging, Chaz.
I know,
Keep digging.
yeah. This shovel's really light as well. It's nice.
Yeah.
Liam Silkstone, though, he's really impressed me tonight. He's done a great job holding on to fourth here. He got fifth in race one, but look at Burke all over the back of Blake. It's that well-known firm of solicitors again, David.
Absolutely, and this is exactly what, as you have the change for second place, Burke does go through briefly. This is exactly what Robertson needed because he's getting away while they hold each other up. Off the road goes Michael Blake. Is he going to get back on? He does eventually, but that absolutely gifts Steve Burke the chance to challenge on the inside line. But Blake stands his ground. Brave stuff that round the outside. Liam Silkstone possibly waiting for it to end in tears ahead of him because don't forget that Steve Burke found himself in strife in the sprint race, which is why he was at the back of the grid. It's been a remarkable recovery, but he's still there in third place. And somehow, in all of that, Michael Blake has managed to hang on to second spot.
He has indeed. Calvin Dent's going to be watching this from the distance as well, hoping that he can get through. Andy Fox has gained 7 places in this one. He's now up to 7th position, so the wily fox that he is has crept through. Just behind this, Niall Crowther has got Brian Crowles and Matt Draycott both closing in on him. The pair of them were both faster last time round by about, well, Crowles was 0.7 of a second quicker. Draycott was 1.9 seconds quicker on that previous lap, and Matt, with all the confidence in the world, goes down the inside of Crowles, hits the back of him. It's not the way to do it, Matt. A bit more patience maybe, but this fight in the top now for this final pair of podium spots anyway, because it's best of the rest. Let's face it, Jake Robertson's cleared off. Calvin Dent becoming a part of it. Maybe Josh Rayfield too very soon, because he's not too far off.
And as long as they hold one another up, of course, it does help those behind. Right now, the cork in the bottle is Michael Blake. Steve Burke has tried most things to find a way past him, to no avail. Has another go as they get to the bottom of the Craner curves. Lines up for the inside line into the old hairpin. Doesn't commit to it, so he's still there behind Blake, who went wide a lap ago. Not as wide this time. There in fourth place is Silkstone. Calvin Dent, 8 places gained, right there with them. He could yet end up in the top 3 the way this is all going. And then behind them, as you say, shouting, wait for me, Josh Rayfield is almost within touching distance. But if they carry on holding each other up, he's going to be there.
He is indeed. And further back as well, Brian Crowles is all over Niall Crowther. And he's going round the outside up the hill, but now that's going to be the inside into McLean's. Chucks it down the inside. Draycott's looking for the door to stay open a little bit. Niall's trying to jam the doorstop in there. Crowles goes across the front of him. Now Niall's boxed in into Coppice. That's not going to work for him. Draycott down the inside. Nearly makes contact with Crowles, but Niall gets freight trained very quickly there. Now what can Draycott do about Crowles? Because Brian has had some really good pace tonight, and we've seen that he can defend.
Yeah, but Draycott's on a mission. He's all wound up, isn't he, after that jump start penalty. So the red mist might come down way up onto 2 wheels. Gabriele Tarquini style that, virtually through Fogarty's was Brian Crowles there. And Draycott actually drops back a length into the clutches once more of Niall Crowther, who comes up to have a look on the inside down of the Melbourne hairpin. Draycott breaks late, scrabbles up onto the back of Crowles with all the tar smoke, but it doesn't really benefit him too much because he hasn't got the drive off the corner.
A bit of a stalemate there as they got to the apex, wasn't it? That was very close indeed. Draycott, he's looking racy on the way in. You know, he just turns in that little bit earlier just to get in the mind of the driver in front. It's not quite working yet, but still, this is getting feisty because now Liam Silkstone and Calvin Dent are the closest two in this battle. It looks like Steve Burke's had another go at Michael and then dropped back a bit. But that's the thing. There's this little sort of, he's like a Newton's cradle, isn't he, in the middle at the moment, Steve? He bounces from one car to the next. He gets spurred on by Liam Silkstone, pushing him from behind. Has a go at Michael Blake, then bounces off the back of him when he tries to get the move done. So that's all going on. I do keep looking, though, at the gap between Crowles and Draycott because I know it's coming down and I know it's changing. Draycott looks to the inside. Nothing doing there. It's similar to what Steve Burke did last time around, actually.
He's trying to force a mistake out of Brian Crowles, isn't he? And it could well come before the very end here. The end being just under 6 minutes away now. The clock has ticked on down quite rapidly. So 24 and a half on the clock. As here's the second place freight train. Jake Robertson is still in the race. He's just light years up the road. As there to the inside line, Calvin Dent pulls out, thinks about it. Possibly that was more in hope than in anticipation, trying to unsettle Liam Silkstone, and it might have worked because Liam goes a bit wide out of Fogarty's. Calvin Dent gets the drive off the corner, but not enough, I don't think, to challenge on the way down the straight. He looks to the inside line, braking late for the Melbourne hairpin. Silkstone does brake too late, runs a little bit wide, but nobody really benefiting from that. It's all a little bit scrappy amongst that train of cars.
It is indeed. And last time round, Michael Blake set almost an identical lap time to Jake Robertson, actually. They were both on 1:46.3s. Jake is only there. I mean, it's a 5.2 second gap, but it doesn't look as big as it is, really, round Donington, as it's quite a short straight, let's face it. But, yeah, this battle is definitely the highlight at the moment. With these five, it's very much a stalemate in the middle of it. Calvin wants to push forward, but he knows how well Liam can defend. They are actually sim racing teammates at Excite Energy iRacing, so they both know how the other drives, and that's probably what scares Calvin Dent to death.
You've got to take your hat off to Michael Blake, though. A third and a second, best potential evening in the championship that he's had. So he's doing a very good job. He's raced well all evening, be it in that sprint or this feature race. But bearing in mind how high up the order he is, given the rest of his championship season, he's heading for a nosebleed at this rate. He's getting away from Steve Burke. That gap has widened by a couple of lengths heading into Schwant's curve. And possibly now Burke having to think about defending rather more than attacking at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to have to focus on his mirrors a little bit. You've got Andy Fox, who is 12 seconds back on this battle, and then Draycott a further 4.5 back. So Andy looking a bit safe at the moment with under 4 minutes to go. Luke Austin's dropped down, unfortunately. He had a 23-second pit stop. Same with Michael Jones. So I think the pair of them might have just taken front tyres and had both jacks go up. Matt Draycott did get past Brian Crowles on the previous lap as well, actually, around Coppice. And is this Brian getting a slowdown? I really hope for Brian's sake that it isn't. Just looks like Draycott's got a good run down into the chicane. As Michael Jones doing a drifting show in the background. Yeah, Brian just concedes. He knows Draycott was pushing hard to come through. And this is still going on somehow, Silkstone. This has been great because Liam, with all these positions going on around him, Steve Burke's gained 9 places, Calvin Dent's gained 8, Andy Fox has gained 7. Liam Silkstone and Niall Crowther are the only 2 drivers to stay where they are. And with all that going on around them, that's actually kind of impressive.
It is actually, yeah, because Liam Silkstone has been really solid in this. Let everybody else come out and have a go at him, but he might not stay there. Calvin Dent then now with, 2.5 on the clock, is all over him like a cheap suit as they go round Redgate. So Calvin Dent looking the quicker of the two, but Liam Silkstone has certainly worked out how to make that car grow in width just when he needs it.
He has indeed. Love looking back from these cars. The horrible drone of the turbo diesel engine, but they do look quick from when you're on the ground anyway, going around here. Just looking back though, just to see the run that Calvin gets out of there. The old hairpin is probably the most important corner on the circuit because it gets you a fantastic run on the exit if you get it right, and it leads up to one of the best overtaking opportunities. And it's, to be fair, McLean's is probably one of the best corners to try and overtake at because it's one of the most definite corners for do you get it done or do you not. It's not one of the corners that leaves you lingering on the exit trying to get a run, as now we say that, and Coppice is definitely one of them, as Calvin Dent now lines up alongside Silkstone. But this is what Burke needs because he wants to break away and go after Blake again.
And he is getting away as Dent is so close to the outside line. He's almost level. He's all up the curb, but it's not going to work there for him. Now, what about if Silkstone bounces wide over the curb, which he almost looked like he was going to do? Dent is certainly quick enough to have a go. Josh Rayfield has finally caught up with them. Dent looks to the inside line. There's a huge Jetta-shaped gap, but he wasn't close enough to take advantage of that. So he's going to have to sit there a little bit longer. Now, where is Jake Robertson relative to these guys, relative to the clock? Is he going to be able to squeeze another lap out of it at the end of this? I think we've got 2 more laps to go.
He's crossing the line now, so no, I think this will be the last
quarter,
one.
Last lap. Yeah, just onto the last lap now, yes.
So Jake will be very pleased to see that flag in the air. But the thing is, the gap's come down, It was 5.2. It's now 4.1 seconds to Michael Blake. So, yeah, hats off to Michael indeed. He's really been flying. He was 0.7 of a second quicker last time round. I think Jake might just be taking it easy. He has said that before he has just sort of backed off a bit towards the end because he knows that he's got the ability to push when he needs to. So it could just be that sort of safe guarantee for him. Now this is for best of the rest when you take out the podium equation. But Calvin Dent, this has been a solid drive so far, and he's doing what we saw on the weekend, isn't he, that we were talking about before, David? You can just stay behind your rival, not risk anything, and just get points, and that's what he's doing.
Bank the points. Yeah, and he needs them because it wasn't a great first race. As I say, he came into the evening as the championship leader. He's lost that, and he could yet gain another place here from Liam Silkstone. Up towards Coppice they come, nose to tail. Trouble is now, Dent suddenly has to worry about what's going on behind him because Josh Rayfield is there. So Calvin Dent wants to try to make sure that he gets as many points out of the race as he can and wants to get past Silkstone, but he can't afford to leave the door open and offer anything to Josh Rayfield. He's on the outside line into Fogarty's, brakes late, he's up the curb. That was never going to work.
No, unfortunately not. Jake Robertson, though, into the Melbourne hairpin for the final time. Takes plenty of dust and gravel and rubbish with him, but he's now got a 3.8 second lead over Michael Blake, so he's definitely taking it easy. Michael looks like he's under pressure from Steve. Checkered flag man gets a bit overexcited as it comes out before the hairpin, but round the final corner to tie with Draycott and Jacobs. 4 wins for Jake Robertson. Brilliant performance, nice and clean all the way through. Blake, great second place, great night for him. Steve Burke, 9 places gained, and Liam Silkstone, I take my hat off. What a defence all race long. That was awesome.
Calvin Dent ends up then right on his tail for 5th. 6th goes to Josh Rayfield. Andy Fox is set for 7th, being caught at the end by Matt Draycott. 8th after his 2 pit stops. Brian Crowles is going to be 9th. Niall Crowther to round out the 10, and Michael Ellert in the background for 11th place.
And in the independents as well, Michael Jones only just holds on ahead of Luke Austin. Those two having a nice little battle, 3/10 separating them. And unfortunately, Carl Jacquelet did not complete the race. But undoubtedly into the championship lead again and into McLean's sideways, Jake Robertson has a pretty flawless evening. 3 points for qualifying on pole, albeit what became 10th. But 2nd place in race 1 and a race win in race 2. That's not bad as evenings go, to be honest, is it?
Don't want to call that a Turkington-esque drive because he didn't draw attention to himself. It was smooth, it was consistent, he got on with it, let everybody else battle. When people got close to him, it looked like Jake was able to up his pace. So he was driving within himself. If it got a bit nervy, he just extended that margin a bit. I was saying during the race that maybe he wasn't being consistent. Well, that was, I think, true enough in terms of the lap times, but maybe that was all part of a master plan just to make sure that he wasn't on the ragged edge. He can be on the ragged edge now, he's won the race and he can celebrate in style. But if people got close, he was just able to edge away and then maybe slacken the pace. They got close, edge away once again. He was helped a bit by the battles behind him, but that was a very impressive display by Jake Robertson.
It was indeed, and to be honest, I mean, if we did any sort of driver of the evening award, I'd probably give it to Liam Silkstone, you know, because he qualified
Michael Blake.
a bit.
Michael
you reckon?
Blake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was,
not that it's nothing to do with me, but I would offer you him as my vote.
Yeah, no, I'd agree, actually. I think I overlooked Michael a bit there just because of Liam's defending in that 2nd race, but still, it was a hell of a race to watch, and there is the result. 3.6 seconds, Jake Robertson ahead of Michael Blake. Steve Burke finishing in 3rd, 4 seconds down on the race leader. Then Liam Silkstone holds on to 4th ahead of Calvin Dent in 5th. Josh Rayfield, car 6, P6 once again. Andy Fox, car 7, P7. He was very much under the radar there, but still some championship points, which is what he wanted tonight. Matt Draycott 8th. That race won't have been what he wanted, but still a considerable comeback, seeing as he did 2 pit stops there. That's quite impressive. Brian Crowles 9th. Niall Crowther gets 2 points finishes and 2 points total for the evening, ahead of Michael Ellett, and Michael Jones in the independents ahead of Luke Austin, 13th in his 2nd round of the championship. And unfortunately, Carl Jacquelet 8 laps down there, but still we
just cast your mind back to something we talked about, 45, 50 minutes ago, and Steve Burke being a long way back in the championship. We said things could change. Well, there you've had Matt Draycott with a bad race. Steve Burke gets a podium. Suddenly that gap starts to narrow a little bit. So, it's not done yet. Steve Burke, that was a very, very good result for him.
It was indeed, and well, on that subject, we'll have a word with him. Steve Burke joins us in the interview room. Steve, you obviously had a bit of an unfortunate incident in that first race, a bit of a racing incident with Andy just going for the same bit of real estate, but that 2nd race must have made your evening because that was a belter.
Yeah, it certainly was. I think the move I tried to do on Andy in the first race, looking back at it, was a little optimistic. So yeah, no, wasn't good. Sort of got my head sorted down and just kept putting the laps in the second one.
And you had that little chase with Michael Blake, obviously just trying to get that position. And I mean, Michael defended well, you attacked well. There just didn't seem to be anything more you could do.
No, I knew, because I think I pitted 2 or 3 laps earlier than him. As I came out the pits, you could tell that the left-hand side of the car just had no grip on cold tyres. So I knew as he came out of the pits, like almost on my bonnet, that he was going to struggle around the right-hand corners. But yeah, I almost made one move work, but just had to back out of it at the last second.
I mean, I know you well, Steve. I can imagine, though, that you still enjoyed all of that door-to-door racing to get through that pack in that one.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely brilliant, mate. From almost the back of the grid all the way through to third on the podium, I'm absolutely made up with that.
Smashing. Well, I mean, David has obviously said that it was a strong performance as well, but going forward in your championship now, obviously the first race, no points from that one, but still a good handful of them for the second one, which would have been more than some people got for the whole meeting. Is your eye sort of still set on trying for the overall title?
I'd like it to be, but we're running out of races now. I'd certainly like to finish ahead of Calvin. And obviously, unfortunately, my teammates got virtual car trouble. So,
well, I was going to say, mate, I do hope that obviously it turns around for you, because you've shown that when you get on it, you've got incredible pace. It's just that some of the incidents have to sort of take over sometimes and cause a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I think like the first race demonstrated, I had the pace to be right up there. I think I started 9th, and it was looking really good. And yeah, I was getting a bit frustrated, stuck behind Andy. Went for the move, but yeah, retrospectively, I should have left it another lap and probably could have got 2 podiums tonight.
Well, fingers crossed that it goes your way in future races, mate. We'll obviously keep a very keen eye on it. But before we let you go, obviously you know this question's coming. Do you want to give a shout out to anyone?
Well, yes, naturally yourself and David. Thank you very much for putting it on. Draycott, Nismo, Niall, and anyone called Bob.
Right. Love it, Steve. Well, great to speak to you as always, mate. Well done on your podium, and we'll speak to you at the next one.
Thank you. Cheers,
Cheers, mate. Love it. Absolutely love Steve Burke. What an absolute hero. And to be honest, the hero of the night with undoubtedly the most points, Jake Robertson, joins us in the booth. Jake, I mean, pole position is always nice, but when it converts to a reverse grid, you've got to work hard, but you certainly did that tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, the heat was a pretty crazy one. I mean, I think I got a little bit lucky, and a couple of people made mistakes around me, allowing me to make like easy passes on the straights, but other than that, it's just as fun as ever, as every week.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, mate, and don't take this for gospel, but I'd imagine that would put you into the championship lead based on my terrible maths, even with Matt taking the win. But as I said before, you and Matt are now tied with Tom Jacobs as the second most winningest drivers in the British Boring Car Championships history, with 4 wins each. Dennis Melchert on 5. Do you reckon you can get that before the season's done?
Oh, it really depends. I mean, Matty is the king of wins, so we'll see what happens for the rest of the season. I'm expecting... Go on.
I was going to say, don't say that. I mean, me and David know well enough that'll go to his head, won't it, mate?
I'm living with him after that.
But no, to be honest, Jake, you've been the real standout tonight. A pole, second place and a win. It doesn't get much better than that, to be honest. In terms of the championship going forward, I mean, points-wise, do you think that you're going to go for a bit more a reserved approach going forward to hold on to them positions, or is it all guns blazing?
I'm driving the same every week. I'm not changing my driving around the championship. I'm going to take it race by race, but I'm sure at some point I'll probably get some sort of bad luck like Matt did today, so we'll see what happens.
Well, we certainly will, mate. We'll see you at Snetterton. Nice one.
Cheers.
Jake Robertson there, and to be honest, I mean, as I said before, David, 15 years old, and to have the composure and pace that he does is very impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we see it in junior circuit racing, don't we? And it's the same in sim racing. But yes, very impressive that, as we were saying in the course of the last couple of laps, not a wheel wrong. Very, very impressive drive in both the sprint and the feature race, and savvy enough as well to know when to hold and when to fold, when to push, when to try and make a go for it, or when to just bank the points.
Indeed, and someone that definitely banked a lot of points tonight is your driver of the evening, Michael Blake, who joins us. Michael, you must be, compared to other race meetings, very, very pleased with that.
Yeah, that was good. Shot myself in the foot in race one with a silly start, but I had really good pace tonight. I was just trying to, in the second one, just trying to hang on to Jake, and there's large parts of the race I was actually taking time back out of it. But I wanted to pit a bit later because I didn't want to struggle with tyres at the end of the race, and when I come out, I don't know if you saw the first lap out of the pits, the car just wouldn't steer or stop.
Yes.
Steve
was saying that it had no grip on the left-hand side when you came out of the pits anyway, so he knew that he had to try and pounce there. But just talk us through that defence against Steve, because it looked like you both had a lot of work on your hands there.
Yeah, it was tough, but one of the beauties about racing Steve is you can, as long as you keep it within the rules, you can push it tight and be really close with him, and he won't sort of have you off. He gives as good as he gets, but he always keeps it fair and leaves the cars around. So I knew I could defend hard against him, because I knew it was safe to. Some people you can't. You have to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah,
that was good fun. I enjoyed that.
Well, we certainly enjoyed watching it, and I mean, David, you said that he was probably driver of the night for you.
Definitely, and you made it look so good, Michael, in both races, so consistent and quick for your best two results of the season. It's tempting almost to ask what took you so long, because clearly the pace was there.
I think what it is I've had a really bad day, so I wasn't in the mood for anything, any nonsense tonight. So maybe I need to have a bad day before every race meeting.
Well, if you can end it with a boring car race that picks your spirits back up, mate, then why not? But no, in all fairness, though, Michael, that was brilliant tonight. A lot of points, and I look forward to calculating them all in a little bit and seeing how you've got on.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if it's got me back in the top 5. That was the aim for the start of the season.
Well, we'll certainly have a look, mate. And Snetterton next time out, just before you go, any thoughts about that one?
I don't really enjoy the track, so I'll take what it gives me.
You won there last time.
Yeah, I know. I don't really enjoy the track though. I just think everybody else enjoys it less.
Maybe so. Well, we'll see you there, mate. But best of luck. And before we let you go, actually, do you want to give a shout out to anyone?
You guys for the broadcast, everybody at Team Mad, and their sponsors, Fanatec, Overclockers, Simon Racing Report, Smile Time Productions.
Love it. Great to speak to you as always, Michael. Thank you very much, mate, and we'll see you very soon.
Take care, guys.
Cheers. And normally we only do 3, but I want to squeeze this one in because he managed to squeeze himself inside the top 5 in both races. Liam Silkstone joins us again. Liam, we only spoke to you before the feature race, but that went just as well for you, didn't it? I bet you enjoyed that.
I know, yeah. I was a bit panicky at first. I thought, oh, it's all right. The pit stop will come on and everything will be down. I'll be back down in double digits. And then when I did my pit stop, I was chatting with Josh then, and I thought, I've done something wrong here. Come out like 5 seconds in front. And Josh went and got his fuel wrong, and I thought, nope, I think I've done it right. Put some fuel in, I've put tyres on, there's nothing else I've done wrong. And then just as long as I was right behind the car in front, I was sound. As soon as like the gap increased, then people started catching me. And I wasn't letting Calvin through, even if he's my ex-teammate.
Well, I was just saying before, obviously you and Calvin raced together, so you know what was going on in the chat when you two were together? Were there words that aren't broadcastable?
No, because you know I do talk a lot, but I do like to concentrate while I'm racing. So literally, I went straight on mute. I gave Josh a nudge, and I apologise for that one. But I saw Calvin, and Calvin went quiet, and me and him don't really shut up. But literally, it was just pitch silence for the whole thing. And as soon as it crossed the line, I just went on mute. I went, Calvin, have that. I'm not letting you through. Because I had a bad grip. I went on so many X.
Pitch silence from Liam and Calvin. You should practice that in Discord more often, I think.
But no, you keep muting me.
Liam, it was a wide car. You certainly defended very, very well in that. It was a tough old race. It must have felt a lot longer than half an hour.
It didn't actually, because it's like I'm going to go back to my younger days. Like Donington Park is one of the tracks I grew up with the motorbike and all that sort of stuff. So it was like my dads were watching one day. I thought I need to just do this track well. But I'm not the quickest. I'll put my hands up and go. Over one lap, I'm not. But with racecraft, I can defend without hitting people, and that's what the main thing for tonight was. I thought, as long as I don't touch anyone and just keep it clean, no one will pass me, and that's just lucky. So
it certainly worked for you. Yeah, indeed. Mega to watch there, Liam. Obviously, a lot of championship points for you. I just said to Michael about the fact that we get to calculate the points and all have the chat afterwards of, oh, so-and-so's moved up, and I'm sure you'll be moving up after that one.
I'd be surprised if not.
I'd hope you do, mate. I'd hope you do. Any thoughts on Snetterton next week?
Yeah, so I didn't even know what track it was. I'm just going to take it as it comes. It's my week off this week, so I'm having like a chilled week.
Yeah.
Because my pedals actually did break on Tuesday, and I ain't dealt with them yet. I've just put my clutch pedal as my brake pedal this week. I'm like, not really bothered, to be honest. I'm just going to deal with it when I go back to work. So yeah, I'll practice on the Wednesday and the Thursday as usual, and then see how we go.
Well, that's another strike for David keeping up his record of how much attention Chaz's drivers pay to the rule book. That's another one.
But me and you argue about the rules all the time. You know I don't.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. I can barely read myself. To be honest, though, Liam, that was great tonight. Well done. Before you go, anyone you want to give a thanks to?
I don't know, my dog, because halfway through the race he decided to jump off the bed and give the whole room a shake.
Oh, love it.
But no, apart from that, no. You guys for doing a great job as usual, and Calvin for not deciding to spin me round. So yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Liam. I would love to say you're the first person that's ever thanked their dog on a broadcast, but unfortunately,
we've about this, haven't we?
Dennis thanked his dog sarcastically last season for jumping under his pedals and making him crash. So that's part of that.
Do you know, the weirdest thing about all this is at the start of the day, and I was out this morning. There was an interview that was on the radio that was from the TV from BBC Breakfast with Lewis Hamilton, in which this interview, rather than talking about what a great job he'd done in Formula One, ended up banging on about his dog. So I've started the day with people talking about their dogs, and I've ended it exactly the same. Well done,
if I can mention my dog again quickly, it's all right. I got a text halfway through from my best mate, and she went, "Can you send me a picture of your dog?" And I'm there in VR going, "I really can't at the minute."
Love it. Well, great to speak to you as always, Liam. Well done tonight, and we will see you at Snetterton.
You will do.
Well done.
Oh, brilliant character. And again, another bunch of fantastic characters that we've got in this championship. Plenty of great drivers to speak to. But Jake Robertson came out on top this evening, definitely, didn't he? That was a very, very impressive performance.
Absolutely. Across everything that you threw at him, if you like. Qualifying, so you've got to do that over a single lap. Sprint race, short race, and then the feature race, plus the pit stop. And he took all of that in his stride. You know, whether it was ultimate pace, whether it was pit strategy, it all fell into place. Now, whether if Matt Draycott hadn't had his POC start, it would have been a different story. I'm not entirely convinced, given the way that Jake has driven. But yeah, he's been mightily impressive, that's for sure.
Well, he's got a lot of work to do still if he wants to claim that championship, but it's certainly all been shimmied around here. As you'll have heard then, everybody, we'll be back in a week's time for Snetterton on the 200 layout, where, yes, we will be going night racing once again in the British Boring Car Championship. Cannot wait to do it. David, thank you as ever, mate. Fantastic to have you on board for this championship.
My pleasure.
And thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and we will see you in a week's time.